I'm not sure if I told you before, but my home in South Kildare, it lies just about 3 miles outside a small town called Castledermot. Some of you might know of it. But my home is just simply built on a hill, which is pretty much surrounded by a wooded area, and it's called Mullaghcreelan Hill. And our home overlooks a very old Fitzgerald castle called Kilkee, one of those castles just inside the Pale. But right behind our home, and literally behind our garden, is the remains of an ancient ring fort. Just the general ones we see all over this country with the outer ring and then a small inner enclosure. It's pretty much covered by shrubs and trees now at this stage. Now, before I became a seminarian for Dublin back in 2011, I didn't have a clue how to pray the rosary. I had no idea what a breviary was. You know, the daily office priests say 3 times a day. I had no idea I had no idea church life pretty much at all. I went to Mass, yeah, that's about it. But everything else, hadn't a clue. To give you some indication just how ecclesiastically illiterate I was. I know some of you probably think I still am. But friends, I remember as a first-year seminarian, I was serving Mass in the pro-cathedral. I think it was for one of the Easter ceremonies. And I remember noticing when I was in the cathedral a large painting of Laurence O'Toole, St. Laurence O'Toole, on the left-hand side of the church. And I saw a reliquary. Then I noticed there was a stained glass window of him up over the sanctuary. And it was only then I was told and I realised that Laurence O'Toole, he was the first Irish-born Archbishop of Dublin, and of course the principal patron of the Dublin diocese. And I remember the hairs on the back of my neck standing up, and I was just completely blown away, because before I went to seminary, I studied history and theology. And one of the papers I wrote for history was a medieval study of my own hometown of Castledermot. And it was then that I discovered that the ring fort behind my house was where Laurence O'Toole was born, which I thought was so cool, to say the least. And of course, then when I was in the Irish College Chapel in Maynooth as a seminarian, there's anyone who's been to the big Irish chapel in Maynooth, it's really beautiful, an extraordinary testament to the faith of the people of this country. But around the sanctuary are huge frescoes of main saints of Ireland. And on the left is Laurence O'Toole. And I always love just spending time in prayer looking at this image of him, because he's dressed as a bishop in white, and he has one hand out, halting the bloodthirsty Norman invasion of Dublin at that time, and the other hand is like that, holding protection for the poor people of Dublin, which it never fails to bring a little tear to my eye, I have to say, a little jump in my heart. I mean, just to see a leader of the church like that, whom God rose up at a time when Dublin and the country needed leaders like him. I mean, just his leadership, you know, in both his worldly leadership at the time and, of course, his spiritual leadership obviously inspires me every single day. And then for me to be ordained a priest this day 7 years ago on his feast day in the pro-cathedral was just icing the cake, to say the least. Absolutely a dream come true for me. Yet one more little confirmation myself anyway of God's guiding hand in my life. So friends, I think you would agree that this Holy Archbishop of Dublin is someone who's very close to my heart, to say the least. Folks, Laurence O'Toole, he was obviously a saintly man, but he was very much a saintly bishop whom the Lord called to act and lead in the time when Ireland was going through ferocious cultural turmoil, particularly with the bloody invasion of the Normans. I mean, his leadership was very much one of peace and negotiation between King Henry II, France and Ireland. I mean, he played a huge role in all of that. And of course, as a holy bishop, had an extraordinary, tremendous love for Jesus Christ. Christ was the centre of everything that guy did. I mean, from his time as a hostage, as a young boy in the Glendalough in County Wicklow, to his time as a young abbot of Glendalough, then of course the Archbishop of Dublin. In fact, one of the more beautiful facts I just love about Laurence O'Toole is that as Archbishop of Dublin, he spent weeks of the year, not just a few hours or a day here and there, but weeks of the year in quiet prayer in Skellig Michael in Glendalough, which is that ruined little church you can see in the upper lake of Glendalough, just below St. Kevin's Bed. He spent weeks there in prayer by himself. Just give you some indication, folks, of his deep, deep courage, love for Jesus Christ, which of course gave him that strength and that courage to stand up to the oppression of his time, to face those brutal times that he was a leader in. And in the end, as we all know, he was killed in Normandy in France on his way back from trying to negotiate peace in Ireland and England. Folks, I think that in the coming years, we're going to face serious turmoil, in this country, and it's going to require not just humble and wise statesmen and women, but very much saintly leaders in the church. Holy bishops who have guts to stand up to the oppression of the constant erosion, at the moment anyway, of human dignity, from natural conception to natural death, which is constantly under pressure to be taken away from us. The threat of disunity amongst God's church, the changing political landscape that we're already seeing, is going to take place even more so, where what we believe and what we say will get us into trouble. And of course, then what's going to come down the line is massive cultural and religious shifts. That's going to be hard to stomach for an awful lot of people. But friends, in all of this, there's always hope. That's the beauty about our faith. In every moment of history like that, those dark moments when it seems that all hope fades, God will always raise up holy men and women, holy bishops, religious priests, laymen and women, who have a tremendous zeal and fortitude that's bolstered by a deep, and I mean a deep, one-to-one relationship with Jesus Christ, centered here, first and foremost. That no amount of oppression, no amount of threats of violence, fear, or intimidation can sway. So folks, I hope you can join me this morning, and those of you online, just to pray to God through the intercession of St. Laurence O'Toole, that he will do just that. The Lord will give us holy Christian spiritual leaders that we desperately need to carve out a path of sanctity, courage, as we face quite a tough future. St. Laurence O'Toole, pray for us.